Hey everyone, welcome to Buzzing About Romance. I am Becky, and joining me today is Leah. Hi, Leah.
Hi.
And Heather. Hey, Heather.
Hello.
Thanks everybody for sticking around. We've had some issues starting up.
We're having some technical difficulties.
Leah put on her news reporter voice for us. It was very nice.
You like that?
Yeah. So we are into our new format. It's Wednesday night, and we're diving into our book club style discussions as we sip and chat about whatever our selected title of the week is. And this is a selected title that we did one quick shot on Dante.
Was it Dante? So. Do we talk about Joey too? I know we talked about Joey.
I know we've talked about Joey, but I don't know if we did.
Sure. Let me look it up.
I can't remember.
Quick shots.
Oh, I lost my cursor again.
So anyway, this episode we are discussing Keres by Sadie Kincaid.
Mm-hmm.
Here are the things that you guys should know before we start. This was released April 18th, 2024. Tropes. This is deception trope, revenge, enemies to lovers, close proximity, and shared trauma. Series name is The Chicago Ruthless. It is a standalone series. I think each of these books stands on their own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
POV is first person multi because this is a male, female romance. So we get all three POVs. Mm-hmm. Put out percentage was 7%. It pops hot. Mm-hmm. And it is hot. Right on it. Audio narrators are Angelina Roca, Bradley Ford, and J.F. Harding. And this is done in duet style. Okay. I have to say a couple of things. I know, right? No one is shocked by this. So I did do the audiobook, and I actually ended up enjoying the audiobook. I'm not a huge fan of duet narration, particularly this one, because while it was easy to identify Angelina's voice and who she was playing and who was speaking, the men sounded very similar, and I am not familiar with either of their work. And it would have been nice if at the beginning of the audiobook, when they do the opening credits, if each of them had done a voice sampling. For example, Angelina Roca playing the voice of Keres, Bradley Ford playing the voice of Romeo, or J.F. Harding performing the voice of, and say his character.
So you don't know who did which character?
I have no idea who was the voice of Ace and who is the voice of Romeo.
So I don't know either, but I could tell them apart.
I just felt like they blended together. How fast did you listen?
Oh, I only listen at, my brain can't keep up more than just regular.
So I listened at, I think it was 2.5.
Oh.
No, I'm sorry, at 1.25. 1.25. It might have been 1.5.
I'm going to say 2.5 is fast, because I usually do 1.75, and that's pretty speedy.
Rachel listens as fast as Audible will take her. And I can't keep up. My brain just literally, the ADHD and the audiobook are like, sorry, no go, girl.
Yeah, I couldn't do it.
I have to listen to it faster because my brain, like, it loses focus. Yeah. But Becky and I were talking about that earlier. We were talking about the audiobook, and like I said, if they had found two people with two completely different octave of voices, it probably would have blended a lot better. Because like if you had an Aiden Snow and a Teddy Hamilton, like their voices are very distinctively different.
100%.
So I didn't do the audiobook, so I don't know what it sounded like, but just going off of what Becky said, like I think maybe if you're doing multiple people, you just have to really watch those distinctive octave changes and like what octave a narrator's talking in.
So to be fair, I think Angelina Roca did amazing job at doing Keres. I mean, her, like, she's kind of like she's a badass, and her voice is like spot on. Like,
I've liked everything I've listened by her.
Mm-hmm. I really thoroughly enjoyed it.
She was the most outstanding performance in this audiobook, in my opinion.
I might have to listen to it.
It's good. I like it.
It was very good. So the ebook itself is available in Kindle Unlimited. The audiobook is only available in audio. You can get it for the $7.49 or $7.99
Whisper Sync.
Whisper Sync price. The author has very clear content and trigger warnings in the front of the book.
She does, yes.
The audio does not, I think, say the content
it doesn't?
and trigger warnings.
That's odd, because usually
it's
like if they're
very uncommon to have them.
Huh. Maybe because I usually am always going from one to the other. Like I always look at the ebook stuff before I listen to the audios.
So content trigger warnings, sex trafficking, sexual assault off page, and there is on page violence. And obviously we have a revenge plot and deception, and it's mafia. So
yeah, the two characters, Romeo and Ace, work for the Moretti family, who is a mafia family in Chicago.
But the mafia was not heavy in this plot.
No, like it was like just this big, like the side, like introduction of the family piece of it.
Yeah. I will say overall talking about this story, sometimes when we get a polyamorous couple, like the Why Choose, but this is a throuple, it is more steam than it is plot.
Yeah.
This book was incredibly well balanced with storyline and spice.
Yeah, I think so too. And I like the fact that it was so story heavy because of the background of Keres and the nature of like why like her character was introduced in the first place. I think if we hadn't gotten as much story, then it would have fallen really flat and not been like as successful in the telling.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about our heroine, Keres. I think that as far as the three characters go, she is the most dynamic.
Yeah.
She has the best character arc. Yeah. She has the most growth. She's a badass.
She really is. But she has the most like emotional change throughout the book too, like from the revenge to seeing like where she was wrong, but accepting that she was wrong. Like she accepted her mistakes, which I thought was really nice. And then like what she created at the end of the story was really like dynamic, which we'll talk about as we go.
And she's very heavy on revenge at the start of this book and deception. And she hates these people. This is a great example of enemies to lovers. And I'm calling on you, Heather, because you're very clear to tell you don't like enemies to lovers.
I do not, which is odd because I love mafia, but this was really well done. There was a lot of hate sex too, and I was there for it.
There was so much anger and so much hate. And her conflict, her internal conflict of her hatred towards this family and these people, it was done in such a gradual way that the hate sex made sense. It wasn't an automatic like, oh my God, I fucking hate you, to now I love you.
But it wasn't like this blatant hate either. It was like there's hate with like genuine feeling undertones in it. So it worked differently than some of the hate sex that like you find in other books.
They really had a disdain for each other, but they were so drawn to each other. And I think Ace in particular is a character who feels really deeply and is able to provide like protection and safety for especially Romeo and Keres, right? Like Ace saw that there was something going on with Keres and he couldn't put his finger on it. And that actually made him mad that he cared about her when he didn't really want to.
Yeah. And that was something too, like the dynamic. One of the things that I really did enjoy is reading this as male, male, female. Sometimes we come into these situations of these polyamorous couples and the person coming in, you know, it's odd, or they'll make a comment like, I don't know that I could love both of you. There was just this easy acceptance to this relationship. Keres came in, she didn't try to change anything, she didn't try to divide and conquer. She just fully accepted that this is who they are.
Well, but I think part of it though is like they were in a long-term relationship like when she showed up. And a lot of times we don't always get that. Like the polyamorous aspect to it is like they randomly share people like other women, or they randomly hook up with each other, or they randomly do this, or they're trying it out like to do this, and like it's the connection between the three of them. Like these two guys, Romeo and Ace, had been in a relationship for 4 years. And yes, they had shared women like throughout that 4 years, but it was just kind of like an added bonus to them. Like, so I think that was part of the dynamic too, is like they were fully established. And like she just kind of popped in and like changed the dynamic of their relationship, but not catastrophically. Like she was a cog that they didn't know they were missing.
I will also say, Heather, Ace is not a typical caregiver, but in this book, he's a caregiver.
He really is. Yeah, I mean, yes. And I also like that it's mafia and that these two are in a relationship, and that's not super common in mafia. So that's a little bit a step
Although
out of the norm.
Joey's hero, what's his name?
Max.
Max hates them.
Mm-hmm.
He hates them.
He does. Well, because they messed up.
Well, even
and also they used to
before they
flirt with Joey. And
yeah,
I mean,
to piss Max off.
Max is uber possessive. Like, touch her and I will like, I mean, there's no eyeball
Yeah.
scooping here, friends, but there's definite like, I will cut you.
Yeah, I would say Ace is not a typical caregiver, and I also like that Romeo is this like buff, tough guy who is also alpha, but he also is vulnerable enough to let Ace kind of take care of him.
Yeah. So we have in this book deception trope. What were you gonna say, Leah?
But they really play off of like their like feral characteristics and like bring out the feralness in each other. And we all know I kind of like a feral hero. I mean, it just works for me. Not in real life, friends, just in my romance books. But I think that's part of it, is like they allow them, so like each other to like hit that line, but they know like when they need to step in to bring them back.
Yeah.
They really just play to like the best parts of each of them and the worst parts, but in a good way.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
No, I think it does. So one of the big pieces that starts this story is the deception. Keres comes into their lives to drug them so that she can get access to their phones and then access to Joey, because that's who she intends to kidnap.
But that is not what happens.
Did the deception bother you?
Not in this one.
I think because we got her perspective, like the introduction to her made it, I think, I don't want to say it was okay, but I felt like it was like, I knew it was like something she had to do. I didn't love that she was deceptive because I don't necessarily love that. But I also am like, these two are kind of dumbasses. Like, what in the hell?
Yeah.
Get with the program, dudes.
We did have in this book, Romeo has some jewelry on his penis. So let's talk about Ace.
He has two.
Oh, he has
one on his penis and he has one on his tongue.
Oh, that's right. Sorry, I forgot about the tongue.
I did not forget. And it's already on my list. Don't worry.
It's already on your list. Okay, so let's talk about who Romeo and Ace are. We said Ace is the caregiver. Romeo has a history. So his connection, his bond to Keres is almost stronger than Ace's bond to Keres, because he's been there. He understands the lack of safety, the lack of understanding.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting because like the way like they do not know what happened to her until like later in the book, but it's like this this soul deep like notion that like he knows that something like that happened to her, especially like during the nightmares that like she wakes up with like while she's with them. And that's the thing, like they connect on like a much deeper level, even though like neither one of them like really recognizes it. Like they have that, but they don't acknowledge it at the same time. But that's the thing, like Romeo is he's a damaged guy, and like Ace like has healed him in a way he never expected. And so like them like adding Keres and hoping to do the same for Keres as Ace did for him, it like brings it full circle.
But Romeo has more faith in Ace than Ace has in himself.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that that's really where almost like doesn't want to let Romeo down either. Like he doesn't want to let either of them down. And so he kind of pulls it out of himself.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the other things about this book is it's actually told in two parts.
Yep.
And the big bad in each side of the book changes, sort of.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the first part of the book, really, the Moretti family is our big bad, right? Because they hold all the information as to who trafficked her mother and who trafficked her.
Well, but she's also like after the brothers because she thinks that they are part of all of this.
She also herself is technically a villain in the beginning of the book because she kidnaps Lorenzo's wife, which I was perfectly okay with because sister is too stupid to live.
But also, let me tell you, so at the end of Lorenzo's book, if you've read it, like at the end of his book, like I didn't really like feel like the love, but dude loses his shit. Like he's like going to peel the skin off of her. Like so like like in this book, like how far like I like the fact that we saw his devotion to her in this book that we didn't necessarily see in the last book. Because it really made me believe that like he does really care for her now.
Yeah.
But yeah, he did threaten to peel her skin off. You're welcome, Fritz.
We did learn her connection to Lorenzo. Okay, did you like that? Because that kind of came out as a surprise that at the end of the day, Lorenzo was her savior from being trafficked.
I had a feeling it was going to be one of them because there had to be some sort of connection for her to believe what they were saying.
Yeah.
Like there had to be like that moment because like whoever saved her talked to her like, and I didn't know who it was going to be. And honestly, like the fact that it was Lorenzo and he's such this stoic, like kind of angry guy, it worked really well. But I knew it was going to be one of the three of them.
The only problem I had with it is the timeline issue because he was in Italy, wasn't he?
When no, because they went back and forth.
Okay.
Until she was sick.
I think when Dante like figured out, I'm trying to like Rolodex back through because I think as soon as Dante figured out that his dad was into trafficking, I think he called Lorenzo and was like, "Get your ass back to Chicago."
He had to. It had to have happened before the start of Dante.
Yeah,
because it's when they moved the half sister that's the MMA fighter, or no, the former fiance.
Yeah,
that the father had. Right?
Well, no.
But Dante. Shit.
But the sister-in-law didn't get like they didn't move and stay in Italy until she got sick the second time, wasn't it?
I thought they moved the first time and then she beat it and then they came home when she was sick the second time.
Well, so they were home for a while. Like
I just felt like the timeline was a little muddled.
I was okay with the timeline.
Okay. But I think this is further down the road than Lorenzo because of the kids, right? Because they have
because they're on baby number 3.
That's true. Okay, so stories in 2 parts. At the end of the first part, Keres loses her best friend Nyx, and Nyx is part of the reason that she's hell bent on revenge. She's trying to help her reclaim herself. But it is very clear that Nyx is not well.
Yeah. She's very mentally unstable. And that's putting it lightly.
Yeah.
Well, and it's clear that she does not want to change that either. Like,
No.
Were you okay? I mean, we're never okay, but were you okay with her dying? Were you
Yes.
okay with how they handled it?
yeah.
It was a little, I think she got over it very quickly, but I feel like through that process, I think she kind of came to the realization that she's really ill and I am not going to be able to help her.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, she was nervous about Maya.
Well, she was nervous the whole time that Mia
Yeah.
was even with her. So
Right.
it's like and like you figure as like the story played out, like she was even nervous before it all happened because she hadn't been taking her meds. She hadn't been doing all of these things, and she was pretty much spiraling.
Spiraling.
Yes, that is the word I'm trying to say. Words are hard, friends, and I don't know why. But she was already on that path, like before, like they pulled the trigger on any of this. So I think, yes, I feel like she did get over it a little bit soon, but at the same time, I think she realized like this was going to be the outcome no matter what happened. Like whether it was her doing it or one of them doing it, like there was no other way that nobody else was coming out of it unscathed unless that was the end game.
Okay.
And I feel like Keres really had sort of like when I say this, it's gonna sound weird, but she has like a moral compass. Like she's very protective of women and children because of everything she went through.
Yeah.
Which to me, it's sort of a dichotomy because she kidnaps a woman and then we find out that she's pregnant. So she puts women in danger. Like it was this weird thing. Like that's where I struggled with it.
Yeah.
Well, but at the same rate, like she was planning on kidnapping Joey, who like when
Was still a woman.
well, yes, but in her eyes, Joey was a lot more vicious and ferocious than Mia was. So like there was not as much like guilt in the fact that she was going to kidnap
Joey
Joey.
probably would have killed her. I mean, like, let's be real. That's why Sadie could not have actually had her take Joey. Because girl would have lost her mind and Max would have fucking lost. I mean, we think Lorenzo lost his gourd. I cannot even imagine.
The world would have burned. The world would have burned.
Joey would have burned the world down herself because that girl is a badass. And I think that's why it worked out the way it did. And that's why she wrote the book the way she did. But I think that had that Joey been in that situation, that whole scene, like that whole culmination scene would have been vastly different than the way it played out.
And it's interesting because her losing her friend, it felt void of emotion. But the scene where she goes to see where her mother is buried in the field of flowers, that was crazy emotional. And so there was this kind of disconnect a little bit. Like,
well, but
you would have thought each would have been equally as emotional.
But even as like you're reading the book though, Keres talks about like her ice and her walls and compartmentalizing and like closing herself down to a lot of feelings and how she hasn't cried since she was 12. Like, so I think in some ways like it is a disconnect, but at the same rate, like she has held back every emotion but rage for so long that like she needed that breaking point at her mother's grave. And like Nick's dying, like there was the fact that Nick's was about to hurt Mia and the baby. So I think that like she wasn't feeling those emotions because she was feeling so guilty that her actions could have caused something bad to happen in that moment. So like
I also think that she had to take care of her constantly.
Yeah.
Like she was constantly taking care of Nyx and trying to help her heal somebody who was so resistant to it that it sort of stunted. I mean, like it frustrated her and it was wearing on her.
Yeah. I can see that. Okay, so next part, you have the second half of this book where they, Ace and Romeo, are joining Keres to finally find the guy that's the head of all the sex trafficking, the guy that profited the most, that was doing all the movement of the humans. that Moretti was getting money from and all those things. And that part of the book, I think, moved really well.
Mm-hmm.
And he ended up being some random guy that we have never heard his name or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
I did like that we saw the New York guys that are the family that's getting the next series of books.
Yeah.
Same.
And I'm super excited about that. The receptionist has got to be his love interest.
Well, let me take a gander.
You go
here.
take a gander because
I don't
she
think
was
she
like,
has the blurbs up yet, does she?
because the receptionist was kind of sassy, right?
That or the receptionist is going to be like the bad like girl. You know how there's occasionally like the villain, like the
The
female,
villain.
like,
Yeah.
and she wants to do him and he doesn't want to do her, and she goes after like his love interest.
Maybe.
It is, the blurb is not up. However,
What does she say?
Broken is a billionaire, which we knew, marriage of convenience.
Oh, I like all those
Sign
things.
this girl up. July 30th, 2024. Sadie Kincaid, if you need someone to read your arc, please just reach out.
Okay, so we get in the second half of the book just how dominant Ace is sexually. And it like there is a whole scene on a motorcycle. Like
Yeah.
they get off the motorcycle and he's like,
yeah.
I've had fucking enough. Bend over.
Well, but I will say though, like he does like we all like we all like the three of us is like we're in a row like up and down, which is why I'm going like this. Like consent is not always necessary in our books.
No.
But Ace is like, you either are going to say yes to this or you're going to walk away, because he's like, I'm not going to do that to her. So he had like that conscious moment of I need consent, and I mean she did not walk away, so he did things.
She didn't. Once they burn out the big bad and, he's dead and done, they go back to Chicago.
Yeah.
And Ace and Romeo don't know what they're going to face because, they lost Mia. And Lorenzo is like, And Keres leaves them at the hotel and goes to Lorenzo first. And he gives her a choice. She can leave and go to her island, here's some money, or hey, you could do good in the world.
Yeah.
And she makes her choice. But the book's not over. There's still another 175 pages. There is
really
2 hours. There are 2 hours of audio after he has her make her choice.
Really?
Yeah.
So this is a long book, apparently.
It's here, let me look.
I wanted to chuck my phone over the ending. It was too fucking long.
It's 346 pages.
But the pacing in the ending was long.
That's the thing. Like when she gets the convent and like that whole situation, like and then like they show up and then it's 5 months later or 4 months later. And then there's another 5 months later. And then there's the epilogue. Like you could have just done like the one time jump, like where they're like doing the opening of the
I
thing.
didn't mind them coming together.
Well, but they did that before the first time jump.
Right. Like I didn't mind like they go to the house and he's like, Lorenzo's like, I don't want you two doofuses employed by me, but I hear Keres could maybe use you. And they go to be with her. And they confront him. And it's a dark moment that's not a breakup because they're not really together.
Yeah.
And I liked that. And had it ended there,
I would have been content.
I would have been content. I would have felt secure in that HEA. I wouldn't have needed an epilogue. Now, because we're doing all these, and because I am a team player, even when nobody else reads the book, Hey, listen, we are on week 4 of these.
Okay, I just didn't read one. I'm sorry, but that one was not
but I did, and I read it through the epilogue. But what I'm saying is I read this one through the epilogue.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't have. You know why I shouldn't have?
We didn't need it.
No, because he doesn't use lube.
No, He does not use lube.
But he talks about why he doesn't use the lube.
Because he wants to feel the tightness and the dryness and the harshness.
I'm just saying.
It's wrong.
If
you're part of Buzzing About Romance Patreon, Fancy Drinks or Higher Level, you would have gotten your use lube. Be kind, use lube coloring sheet, or using lube shows you care. If you love someone, you use lube.
Jenny said that's rude.
It was really rude. I was very upset. I read an epilogue, and then it had the audacity to not use lube.
I think if she,
twice.
I think honestly, like she could have epilogued like the opening of the center. Like if she wanted an epilogue, like cut out like the first like.
But the epilogue was 37 pages long because
I didn't need
you had the
though.
gala,
I'm saying, like,
and then the family showed up, and then they had to have the sexy times.
Though, like I would have been content with like the opening of the convent and like the center and all that stuff, because like that that section didn't bug me, but I didn't need the other stuff.
Not one single word in the epilogues bothered me at all.
I was bothered by the lack of
even
lube.
though they didn't use lube.
I mean, I didn't love but he did.
That's fine. I'm going to let your husband know that lube's optional. Heather is not really interested in lube.
You go do that.
We'll tell him when we get to
whatever.
I'm going to make Heather a t-shirt that says lube is optional.
Oh my God. I will buy you a shot.
No.
If you wear that shirt. I'll buy you a shot of like Diet Coke or something.
For me. I don't. Yeah. Okay. I don't mind epilogues. I sort of wish that every book the author would write me a Christmas letter just to fill me in on all the things that are happening.
But that's different. That's completely different. Those are bonus scenes. That is different.
I liked this one. I liked because I feel like Ace and Romeo wanted more out of their life, and she had never even thought, like when Lorenzo said, "What do you want in your life?" And she's like, "Nobody's ever asked me that." Yeah. And so I think she had not had the opportunity to dream about her life. She only thought about Phoenix. And so this was sort of
she
like
felt secure to dream.
Yeah.
And this showed she had the security to dream. And again, though, them coming to her and saying, "We want to be here with you in this moment, in this place."
Yeah.
That would have been fine. Skip all the other 72 chapters between there and the epilogue. I probably wouldn't have hated on the epilogue other than they didn't use lube.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the thing. Like,
if you're going to make me read an epilogue, authors, please use lube.
Well, honestly, like when we had that first like time jump and it was like the 4 months later or whatever, I was like, oh, the epilogue. Like, why didn't she call it the epilogue? But then I kept reading. I was like, oh, that wasn't the epilogue. Like, it just was extra unnecessary stuff. But some people might like that.
I am one of those people.
Okay.
The more I get, the better I'm happy.
So if you enjoyed Keres, what other books might readers
I have one tonight.
enjoy? Go for it, Leah.
Sarah Bale has her bedtime stories. There's a bunch of thruples, and well, there might be more than two also.
The Goldilocks one is three bears.
It's three bears, yeah, but it's not more than three.
Retelling.
Yeah.
But the Bale bedtime stories, like those would work similar to these, and they're like mafia-esque as well. So
what do you got?
And honestly, if you haven't read Sarah Bale yet, you just need to do it.
You do.
I have actually the Ryan Brothers by Sadie Kincaid. It's a really good series. Do you want to know what I did? I brought the Ryan Brothers book with me to Denver. I was so excited to see her. I got all flustered. I left it at the damn table. I never brought it home. But yes, tell me about it. It's a little annoying for myself. I did that.
Did you message her? Did you message her? She might have
just message her.
England.
Be like, hey,
I live in England.
But be like, I'm a dumbass, and I was so flustered and like fangirled in front of you that I left my book on your table.
And she is the sweetest human, you guys. Like, yeah. Anyway, the other one is the Dare Menage series by Jeannie St. James. It's not dark though. It's not like mafia, but I don't feel like it's dark. No.
She has some dark-ish.
The audios are stellar. I listen to them on AnyPlay, but the ebooks are in Kobo Plus.
I will say Homewrecker by Sarah Kate is male, female. I also think she has Mercy is male, female, and Madam is female, male.
Mm-hmm.
Bound by Shannon Elliott is female, male. That is spicy and has good plot and is polyamorous. Mary Carr has tons.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now, often in hers, the swords don't cross, but I think the last one they did.
Yeah, the last one, the swords cross, steady and strong.
Yeah.
Who was I going to say?
But she uses lube because she cares.
Uses lube. She cares. Dang it. Oh, Elle Kennedy. She has her Hot series. It's like it's one of the older series, but it's all like men in uniform. It actually might be the Man in Uniform series. She's since like retitled and stuff, but there's a couple thruples. One is male, female, but she changed the titles in the past couple years, and I couldn't tell you what the name is.
It's called Out of Uniform.
There you go.
It's a 3-book series. So book 3 is a spicy military poly romance.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Ladies, men.
Yeah. So, but their swords cross. So.
And Kelly Jamieson has a couple of really great thruple romances.
Well, and Lexi Blake has thruples, and I mean, she has a whole thruple town in her Sophie Oak, but they're like suspense light. But then in her Masters of Mercenaries, there's thruples, and a couple of them, the swords cross.
So anyway, Jane Ryland also has a lot of poly books, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And Mary Carr and Lila Du Bois also write a lot of thruples. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you guys for reading Keres with me.
You're welcome.
Thank you for letting us read Keres.
Even with no lube, I still read it. Oh, I forgot to do our thing. So for this book, is Keres a thumbs up or a thumbs down for you, Leah?
It's a thumbs up.
Oh, Heather, is your...
Heather got a thumbs up.
You got a thumbs up, Heather.
How fun.
Heather,
you
is
have
this
to hold
a
it there for
thumbs
like an
up?
hour.
Heather, is this thumbs up or thumbs down for you?
Thumbs up.
Thumbs up. Mine not work.
It's a thumbs up for me too. I think this is great.
You have to have the whole like hand in the frame.
I don't know, Leah.
I think it only does it once per Zoom.
I know, but it's so dumb. It's like it says that they can do it, but then it doesn't actually do it unless we're not trying. It makes me angry.
We are off topic. Okay. Anyway, Heather and Leah, thank you for reading the book.
Oh,
and yes, this is our first. All of us gave it a thumbs up.
Thank you for keeping us on our toe, keeping track of us, Stacey.
Be sure to visit our website to stay up to date on our upcoming selections. If you're a member of the Buzzing About Romance Patreon, you can contribute to our Sip and Discuss picks. We have a couple votes coming up for July.
Yes.
Join us this Sunday night for our next Buzzing About Romance episode and Monday. Sorry, I lied. We actually are not here on Sunday night. We'll be back on Monday night because of the holiday. And then mark your calendars and join us next Wednesday when we dive into Whiskey Secrets by Carrie Ann Ryan. And I finished it today, and I cannot wait to talk about it with all of you guys. So, audio's in Kobo Plus if you're looking for it. Anyway, until next time, everybody.
Happy reading, everybody.
Find us on Instagram at Buzzing About Romance or on Twitter at Buzzing Romance. If you like the podcast, please leave a review. If you'd like to support us directly, join the Bookcase and Coffee Patreon and receive exclusive content only available to Patreon members. Check out bookcaseandcoffee.com for our on-the-shelf show notes.